Hey, this is Meridith Elliott, Powell, and you know what time it is? It is 9 a.m. Eastern for some of us. It is Saturday morning and it is time for a sales logic. Both Mark and I find ourselves on the road these days, so welcome to the show. And Mark, why don't you tell everybody what's on tap for today?
Well, hey, today we got a great topic. We're going to talk about how to know when to give up, fire, or move on from a client. Oh, don't we all have one of those? We got a great question that came in from a gentleman in Brazil who's managing a sales team, struggling with that. We got a great book, The Lightning Round. Hey, I like this lightning round. I'm going to be very interested to hear yours. The lightning round is top 10 ways to know a customer is not a right fit.
Good subject. All right, I'll hit the video and we will jump in.
Prospect with integrity, we will get customers who have integrity. Integrity is the foundation from which everything is built on.
You better understand value. But at the end of the day, sales is a relationship business. It is a people business. It is an emotional business.
This is Sales Logic.
This is Sales Logic, the show where we dive into the strategies, discuss the steps, everything that you need to know to sell more effectively and logically. Now, Mark's going to tell us the question, what we've got going on today. He's kind of going to run the show, but we always like to start off by telling you how the show works because we want you, the audience, to get engaged and involved. We always start with a question from you, the audience. So if you want to appear right here on Sales Logic, go to saleslogicpodcast.com, enter your question, or just shoot an email to either Mark or to me, and we'll make sure that it makes the show. We cover a hot topic, we recommend a book, and as Mark says, we always end with a lightning round, something to ensure that you have return on investment. Now, Mark, I agree with you. I love today's topic because I think it is something that we as salespeople really struggle with. So again, what's on tap today, and where are we going to start with our question?
Well, the topic is how to know when to give up, fire, or move on from a client. So that's what we're going to do it. Hey, people are already engaging. Hello, Aiden. Great to see you at Outbound. You're right there in the front row all week. Super. Hope you enjoy the book. Let's get into the question. The question comes from Ricardo in Santos, Brazil. We are a busy sales team that is working for a growing company. We can barely keep up with leads, incoming as well as those we seek. I'm trying to help my team manage their time and attract the business we really want. How do I coach and develop my team to know when to quit, follow up, or let it go?
Well, first of all, congratulations. You have the problem we all wish we had, and that is that you have too much business coming in. So that's a whole nother topic we ought to cover is when you have too much business coming in. What do you need to adjust, change, and shift? But let's get you focused in the right direction. I mean, you've heard Mark and I talk so often about identifying your ideal client. You find yourself in the power seat. You're actually in the enviable position of controlling the buying cycle because more leads are coming to you. So I want to start with something that seems like a softball, but is really pretty powerful. And that is mindset. You need to understand that you need to sell from a place of power rather than a place of need. You're not just taking anybody who wants to do business with you. You have to help your team understand they're basically interviewing on these first calls to find the right customer for you. The right customer means the highest probability of buying, highest probability of not dickering with you on price, highest probability they will get value from your product, highest probability this is going to be a long-term relationship, highest probability you are dealing with a decision maker, and highest probability they are going to refer you business. So I'll take a breath and let Mark pick it up from here.
Hey, I like what you said there. Now, here's something to keep in mind. Ricardo, this position that you're in right now may not last forever. And for those of you who are listening right now saying, hey, this doesn't really apply. No, it does apply to you, because here's the situation. Regardless, whether you're in Ricardo's situation or you're struggling to get leads, here's what it comes down to. What is your qualifying process? Now, here's something to keep in mind. Don't ever think for a moment you're going to boil the ocean, because you're not going to. And as Meridith did a great job saying, who is that ideal client? Stay focused in your lane. And if you're struggling to find leads, I'm going to flip this around for a second. If you're struggling to find leads, there can be this tendency to try to keep leads in your funnel a lot longer than they should be. No, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't make that mistake. Your objective, regardless, if you're struggling to find leads or in Ricardo's position, your objective is to qualify fast, because you want to qualify fast. Go back to the questions that Meridith was saying. You got to find out, do they absolutely fit your profile, people you can help? In other words, if the outcome they're looking for, the gain that they're looking for, the solution they're looking for, does that line up with what you've been able to provide other clients? If it doesn't, cut them loose, and cut them loose fast, so you can spend time on those people who do fit the profile. Here's a situation. Too many salespeople wind up with a clogged pipeline. We've talked about this on the show a lot. And you've got to skinny it down, working with only the best, because that's how you're going to maximize. Because remember, the title of this show, the topic of this show is how to know when to give up, fire up, or move on from a client. And it starts with the prospecting. If you don't prospect right, you'll wind up with garbage, not only in your pipeline, but you'll wind up with garbage customers. Oh, that stress you forever and ever.
Absolutely. So once you define that target market, once you make sure that everybody is clear, I call it the bullseye. I mean, what you've got to do as the sales leader is say, this is the ideal client that we are looking for. And like I said before, highest probability of buying, highest probability of value from the product, highest probability of not dickering with us on price. Now, how do you find those? Number one, write down your top 10 customers. These are the people that if I told you to go out and call on them right now, they would bring a smile to your face. You just get along. They come back to you time and time again. You're more like friends than salesperson to customer. If you write them down, you'll see they have themes, things that they have in common. Maybe, and mine, and even though Mark and I are both in sales, our ideal is different. You know, mine work in certain industries, or they hold certain positions. They do certain hobbies on the weekend. They're a certain age group. I have a type. So when I am out on a sales call, my first sales call is asking questions to define if you are my ideal. I'm going to give you a quick example. A few years ago, I was speaking actually in Atlanta, Georgia, where Mark is today. I had 80 CEOs in the room. Now, CEOs are my ideal. They're who I want to deal with, the C-suite. And I was all that was standing between them and cocktails. I was the last keynoter of the day. And when I finished talking, one of the CEOs came up to me and said, I'd love to talk to you about doing some work with my sales team. Now, that's my ideal, right? Like, I've got a CEO wants me to train their sales team. So for most salespeople, they think that it's done. Let's just pull the trigger, try to sign the contract. No. I need to start asking my questions. So I start asking questions. Tell me a little bit about the sales team. They're phenomenal. They're top performers. Great. I work with top performing sales teams. They want to go another level. They think they can dig deeper. They're asking for the training. This is getting better and better. He's clicking everything that I think. He is lining up better and better for my ideal. I ask my last question and I say, why now? He goes on to tell me the story that about a year ago, his wife had come to him and said, you need to hire my brother. He needs a job. He's out of work and you need to hire him. Now, the CEO tells me his brother-in-law is not worth too much. So he's got to find a position for him in the company where he won't do too much damage. His sales team is phenomenal. So he puts him over the sales team. Now, the sales team sucks this up for a while because they're phenomenal. But ultimately, they say to the CEO, we're done. We can't do this anymore. And I say, great. I understand completely. Been in this position before. What have you tried? What have you done about your brother-in-law? And he looks at me kind of confused and he goes, what do you mean? And I said, well, have you tried to train him? Have you tried? He goes, oh, no. I have been happily married for 20 years. You are not touching my brother-in-law. Now, at that moment, I know he is not my ideal customer. And I got 79 other CEOs drinking in the other room. So I am out of there. Now, could I have helped that man? Absolutely. It would have been painful. It would have been a slog, and I would have lost money on it. I need to move on to the other prospects in the room. So you need to identify your ideal, and then you need to define the questions. You're interviewing them to decide if they get to do business with you.
Oh, that is so spot on, because the power to walk away is absolutely critical. You have to be willing to walk away. I see desperate salespeople taking on desperate clients. And that's what you would have done if you had taken that client on, because there's no way you could have corrected that situation, and you would have stressed yourself out. You never would have achieved the results that you expect to achieve. And it really ultimately would have wound up in a failed project on both sides. But see, because you know where you stand and your competence, you say, no, I'm going to march over here. I'm going over in this direction. We have to be, every time you have a lead, you have to ask yourself this very simple question. Does this lead deserve my time? Remember, your time is your most valuable asset. And Meridith could have spent hours with that CEO, would not have achieved anything. Instead, you move on. You see, sales, sales, you have to remember, it's a selection process on both sides.
Yes.
And especially as the economy is kind of going a little bit sideways, I see more and more salespeople trying to reach out and try to grab and touch everything. And it's going to cause more and more chaos, more and more problems, because you're going to wind up, there's an old phrase, not a phrase, but in the building industry, there's called the punch list. You get done with a project, and there's the punch list of these are all the things that we still got to punch out and get done. And what does that do? That becomes a profit suck. And that is exactly what happens anytime you as a salesperson bring into your company a customer that is not ideal. It becomes a profit suck, and you wind up losing money, period. Not necessarily losing money, many times you do, but you certainly destroy your profits.
Yeah, I just would like to pause here for a moment, and I want everybody to zone in on the fact that Mark said the economy is starting to go a little sideways. That is the closest you will ever get to a negative comment from Mark. If you'll recall, a couple of months ago, I said we were going into recession. And he said, I refuse to even think about that. It's not going to happen. But the very fact that he said the economy is going a little sideways, I am going to devote next week's show on how to recession-proof your business, because that is the closest thing to negativity you will ever get from our eternal optimist here.
And ladies and gentlemen, you've listened to the last episode of Sales Logic right here, because you're right. You see, here's the whole, I'm going to do a side path here. Here's the whole thing. We can talk our way into anything. I get the numbers. But I'll tell you what, it comes back to your state of mind. So anyway, okay, back on track here. Hey, with that, why don't we jump over to the topic? Because I do love this topic, how to know when to give up, fire, or move on from a client. Isn't it fun when you fire a client?
Oh my gosh, it is. It's such a relief. But I do want to comment on on one of our favorite people in the world, Mark Bregman, commenting here on your amazing comments at Outbound about, when a prospect is not ideal, it may be the best time to refer that prospect. I do not want to let this comment go away because it is so important. Years ago, when I was a banker, we had banks who would cut interest rates. They would do all types of things, and they were so hard to compete with. And one of the major strategies we used was anytime a client had bad credit or they had, they had questionable tax returns or something, we always referred them to our competitors. Always. Because if you could clog your competitors' pipeline, it paves the way for you to get more opportunity.
Hey, I love that approach. I mean, why not? I mean, hey, help your competitor out. Give them some business. See, here's the situation. At the end of the day, we never close a deal, but we open a relationship. So if I can ultimately take a client that I'm not comfortable with, I refer them to somebody else, and sure, let the two go ahead and play in the mud together. But you know what? That person I refer is going to think more highly of me, and that's fine. Is that a little deviant? No, it's not deviant at all. It's really helping people find the position, find the place that they want to be in. Now, let's talk about this whole thing about why do we want to fire a client? Here's the situation. And I've done this with a number of clients. It is amazing how so many companies don't make them any money.
Yes.
Because of all of the nuances. Salespeople are so guilty of this. They're so close to closing the sale, and then they start giving away the farm.
Yeah.
And every time they give away a piece of the farm, they're giving away a piece of the profit margin. And it just starts eroding away. You have to be willing to sit there and say, if this prospect I'm going to turn into a customer can't play my game within the criteria that I want to play, it's time to get rid of them. And I got to throw out one other side piece real quick.
Okay.
One of the easiest ways to fire a client, just increase your prices.
Oh, it's a great one. Yeah, absolutely. So how do you know it's time to fire a client? Number one is they're not doing what you're telling them to do. I mean, I had a client once who had hired me. Everything looked good. I felt they were in my target. And when we started down that road, one of the things that I have when I go in to do sales training is the CEO has to engage. They've got to be a part of the sales training. I want them to kick off the meeting. I want them to have some accountability pieces. And once I got started, the CEO abdicated and turned it over to his chief revenue officer. And I knew it wasn't going to work because we had to do some significant changes. And if it wasn't coming from the CEO, it wasn't going to work. So they're hiring you for an expertise. And here's what's so important is the moment that I hire you, your brand is on me. So think about this. One reason you want to fire a client is if they're not doing what you tell them to do, they're not going to perform. And believe me, they're not going to stand at a cocktail party and go, I hired Mark Hunter. He gave me unbelievable advice. I just didn't do any of it. And that's why we failed. What that person is going to say at a cocktail party is, I hired Mark Hunter to fix us and he couldn't. I would never hire Mark Hunter again. So the moment they are not doing what you tell them to do, they are not going to get results. Get out.
And that's from a service standpoint. Let's talk about it from a product standpoint, because you may have a customer that you normally ship to every Tuesday. And in order for that shipment to go out on Tuesday, for them to, receive it on Wednesday, you have to have the order by Monday morning. But the problem is this customer never seems to get their order right. They may submit their order, and then they change it. And what does it do? It's messing up your shipping procedures. It's messing up so many things. What is that doing? That's taking profit away from your company. This is that silent suck sound that it just slowly but surely erodes. What is this customer being? They're not being a good customer, because all the focus you're having to put on them to get that order shipped out right is disrupting somebody else's order. And I've seen this so many times. You can sit there and you have a problem customer, and everybody in customer service, everybody on the loading dock, everybody in the organization knows it's a problem customer. And then when that customer finally goes away, it's like the hallelujah chorus is sung. It's like it's Christmas. It's everybody's happy because they finally got rid of this problem customer. You have to be willing, if they're not going to play by your standards, to cut them loose. And I know that's a discussion that many times has to be had with the VP of sales or the CRO or the COO or the CEO. I get that. But you have to be willing to have that conversation, and everybody's got to be in line with it.
Yeah. One of my favorite stories is, I loved this salesperson. We were getting ready to do some significant leadership development and training in a company that I worked in. And our C-suite executives were interviewing the people that we were going to hire. And they decided to pick a few people from, the few of us underlings to come in and do the interviews. And we had an interview with this man at 1:00, leading consulting firm. And because I'm a peon and my friend was a peon, we had been chosen. We show up at 10 till 1 and we're sitting in our seats, little pan and ped. And the salesperson was already there. He was already in the room waiting on us. We're having conversation. At 1:15, our executives walked into the room. And the leadership consultant stood up and he said, it's clear to me that you're not ready to take this initiative seriously. When you are, I would love to talk to you about doing a leadership development program. And he got up and he walked out. And he walked out because those executives showed up 15 minutes late. And that told him they didn't take it seriously. You think about that. I mean, Mark, that's been 25 years later. And that's how impressed I was with that comment.
See, it's so interesting that many times there are little signals that are told that will jump out and tell you whether or not this company, this individual, is somebody who I want to be working with. You have to be prepared to have those. And when you see those, don't drive past them. That person who said that, you don't take this seriously because you showed up 15 minutes late. That was powerful.
Yes.
That was powerful. And you know what's interesting? I have a feeling he walked out of that room more confident than ever.
I think that he walked out of that room. I would guess right now, I don't know a thing about him, but he has a full pipeline. He gets paid his price and all that because he is saying it is a privilege to work with me because I am going to over deliver for you. And if you are not ready to do the work, if you are not ready to commit, another thing that a reason I fire a customer is they ghost me a lot. Whether it's a coaching client or whether it's a sales call or something, but they're constantly moving it or shifting it or showing up late or something. It just tells me that, that it's not right for them and they're not ready to take it seriously. And Mark, I know we're going to talk about this with a book, but, it's pretty easy to fire a client. I mean, it's pretty easy to say, Mark, I realize at this time you've got a lot on your plate. You're really busy. And what I'm offering you is just not the top priority. Know that I'll be ready to do business with you, but I just don't think now is the right time. When you're ready, let's do something. And if you push back on me, I'll say, great, here's the changes I need you to make. And if you make those, great. If you don't, that's cool too.
And you know what? You're going to be operating at that point much more efficiently because you're operating with a level of confidence and a level of competence. And that's going to change. See, here's something. When you fire a customer and you're the salesperson, you're responsible for actually firing the customer. It's amazing how it changes your attitude. It changes everything. You literally walk a little faster. You stand a little taller. It's the same thing in reverse when you start negotiating with a customer. As soon as you start negotiating with one customer, you start negotiating with another one. And before you know it, you're negotiating with every customer out there. And this is why it's so critical for you. Here's your standards. Here's your operating procedures. Here's the protocols, everything you have in place. And if the customer doesn't fit that standard,
you move on.
You send them somewhere else.
You know, what's funny? It's so apropos that we're talking about this morning because when I get on my later today, I've got to fire a customer. And the reason, here's why I'm firing that customer, is that we have been trying to book a keynote for 3 years. I did one virtually for them. We're trying to do this in person. She just won't pull the trigger and sign the contract. She's asked me to hold the dates. And I was just thinking about it yesterday, and I thought, I'm tired. I'm tired of trying to get this contract signed. It's a pretty primo time. It's coming up in June. I've got somebody else looking at the dates, and I don't need it. I want to move on. I don't want to follow up with her anymore. So my email is just going to be, I've got another opportunity. If and when you decide to sign that contract, reach out. Here's the only date I can do it. But I'm going to leave the follow up in your court.
Yeah.
And you are so right. I mean, I feel so good about this.
Yeah. I mean, you feel good because you're just saying, hey, it's okay. You're just going to walk on from it. Hey, time is slipping by. We should get to the book. I wasn't familiar. You know what? You put another book onto my book reading list,
which is getting really long, right?
Hey, come on. Are you saying I don't read?
No, I think you read more than anybody I know, but we're just churning through some books. And I know that because I'm out of all my Audible credits.
See, I read. I don't do the Audible stuff. See,
I'm one to be in my car and listen. But this week the book is Fire Your Customers: How to Stop Letting Customers Run Your Business into the Ground. Focus on the best. And what I love about this book, and I've got to be honest, I've really only skimmed it because I've been looking for words and phrases in the best way. But this is what is so great about this book is Mark and I covered today why to do it. This is how to do it. And it is the summation of the book is if you focus on the best, you're going to work less and you're going to drive profitability. So as you go back through that pipeline, as Mark told you to do, and really be honest with yourself, such good advice on Mark's part, this is going to give you the phrasing and the language. So it takes sort of the uncomfortableness and stickiness out of how to do it. And then the author goes on to tell you really how to focus on expanding and deepening those best relationships.
So in the book, I'm going to be, thanks, Meridith, Elliott, Powell. Okay. Hey, with that, ready for the lightning round?
I am excited about it.
Lightning round, top 10 ways to know a customer is not a right fit.
They are not a right fit if, number one, like we said, they're not taking your advice. They're not following your advice.
Number two, if they don't understand or cannot articulate their value prop, what they're looking for, and have it fit your value proposition.
You can't get in front of them. They won't respond to your emails. They won't respond to your phone calls.
If they continue to distract you and have you be looking at, well, here's how somebody else does this. Here's how somebody else does it. All they're doing is they're really wanting to take your information and shop it with somebody else.
They ghost you. They cancel appointments, and they're always full of excuses. There's a reason they can't do this. There's a reason they can't do that. They've tried this before.
They understand your pricing model. They don't understand your invoicing. They don't pay when they're supposed to. They don't pay what they're supposed to. They don't follow through on helping you stay in business.
You don't like them. This just isn't fun. They don't bring a smile to your face. And it's like you think, oh my God, I would rather go get a tooth pulled than have to go meet with this person. Why are you doing that?
If from an ethics standpoint or an integrity standpoint, they don't line up to you and your company, you do not want to do business with them.
Yeah. If they keep pushing you off to other people in the company, if you have protocols, strategies, processes, ways that you do things, and individuals that you need to be engaged, and they're giving you reasons why those people can't be engaged, get them off your customer list.
I'll share one more, you share one more, and we'll close it down. If they are continuously coming back to you, looking for changes, looking for this, looking for that, and they never seem to accept anything that you provide to them. You share one more and I'll close it down.
All right. They shop your business every year. Despite the fact that you've been good, you've been loyal to them, they always say, well, we need to take it out and look at other people. If they're expecting you to be loyal and they're not being loyal, move on.
I love that. Hey, with that, we want to say thank you for listening to Sales Logic this week. If you like what you hear, hey, Subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcast app. If something we've said has earned you a single dollar, consider telling a friend about our show. It's how we grow to help you grow. I'm Mark Hunter.
And I'm Meridith Elliott Powell.
And remember, when you sell with confidence and integrity,
uncertainty suddenly becomes your competitive advantage.
And the sale becomes logical.
All right. Listen, I forgot Mark too. I owe the big audience a huge apology for last week. We missed that episode. It was not Mark's fault. It was my fault. I was way down under the weather, a little afraid to go on air because I'm not sure what I would have said. But so glad that we had an active team back here this week, and we will see you right back here 9:00 Eastern next week. For another episode of Sales Logic. Please remember to rate, review the podcast. We need those reviews. And if you have a question, please reach out to saleslogicpodcast.com. We'll see you next week.